Jay here for Stretford, Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm in the studio. We're live, so get involved in the comments and the chat and let us know what you think about all the latest Manchester United news that we will be covering. We'll be talking about Jadon Sancho, of course. He was set for crunch talks with Erik Ten Hag yesterday, so we'll be getting into it about how those talks went and what that means for the former Borussia Dortmund winger. We'll also be looking at another winger link that sort of came and went very quickly, but we'll be talking about that. Plus, we're going to talk about Pogba. I know he's no longer a Manchester United player, but we're going to talk about him anyway. And Bruno Fernandes, who is a Manchester United player and has been doing bits for his country. So make sure you are hitting like, share, and subscribe as we talk about all those stories. Phil Berry says, yes, Jay, you're on time, mate. Anaya Segolia says, morning, Jay. MTRK says, morning, Jay, looking extra shiny today. Steve Torres, Colin Coupledick, Jay Whitfield, Flashburn82, Santa Notch, and says, all say morning, Jay. Well, Santa Notch says, morning, El Ghazi. Nice. That's a reference to El Ghazi, who we've been linked with, which I will get into in the morning. Kurt Alexander says, morning from Trinidad. How is it, Kurt, in Trinidad? How's the weather? In Manchester, it's been raining. Was it raining this morning when you got in work, producer Ethan? Yeah, it was raining when I came in as well. It's always raining in Manchester, isn't it? Typical. Right, let's talk about Bruno Fernandes, because he was in action for his country last night, and it was a pretty close game, if we're being honest. Portugal were playing Luxembourg, and they just about got over the line. In fact, I think Bruno might have scored the decisive goal in their win. It was a 9-0 win. He produced a hat-trick of assists before scoring a late goal himself. Now, if you watch some of these assists, there was one in particular which was fantastic. Yes, I know it's against Luxembourg. I know they're not very good. No disrespect to any people from Luxembourg who are watching, but let's be honest, they're hardly footballing powerhouses. But he's still putting a performance, and he's still putting a very good one, and he still did some great assists. And it kind of gets you thinking, what can he do with Rasmus Højlund in front of him? Hopefully he can assist him to get loads of goals for Manchester United. That's what I was thinking anyway. And I might have been getting carried away with the performance against Luxembourg, but I can't help myself. I'm a football fan. It's what we do. Get involved in the comments in the chat and let us know what you think. Whether you got excited about that when you watched those assists and thought, mate, just imagine Højlund on the edge of them little balls there. What's going to happen? Or do you just think, come on, Jay, it's Portugal versus Luxembourg. What are you doing? Let us know what you think. Shannon Cupido says, morning, Jay, all the way from South Africa. Love South Africa, mate. I went there in 2010 for the World Cup. Absolutely fantastic. Loads of people in the chat to say, morning, Jay, morning. Let me know. Someone says, heard it was net score wins last night. Yeah, it could have been. Let me know what you thought of that performance or those assists. If you saw the assists, they were doing the rounds on Twitter. Everyone was chatting about it on my timeline anyway. Everyone was getting really excited about what Bruno Fernandes was doing. And let's face facts, we've not got much to get excited about at the minute as Manchester United fans, but the link-up potentially between Bruno Fernandes and Rasmus Højlund is something I am very excited about. Bruno's created, I think he's created more chances than anyone since he arrived. I think since he's been in the Premier League, I think no one has created more chances than him. I'm pretty sure that's an accurate stat. If it isn't, forgive me. So you can imagine if he's got a decent striker in front of him, because at times he has. He's had players in front of him who've been getting goals. Remember Anthony Martial had that season where he scored 23 goals. He's had seasons, we've seen Marcus Rashford banging in goals as well, mainly from the left, but also down the middle at times. But there's been a lot of times when Bruno Fernandes has had players in front of him that haven't been that great. And I'm not being horrible, but I think we have to be brutally honest about some of the attackers we've had at Manchester United over the last few years. Some of them have been good. Edinson Cavani, for example. Cristiano Ronaldo had that very good season. Then there's been others where they've not had a great season or they haven't been good enough. Odi Nagalo probably wasn't at the levels you need. Cavani's second season didn't really happen for him. Ronnie weren't even here for his second season, was he, if we're being honest? Wout Weghorst is another one. He didn't get any Premier League goals, and it wasn't for the want of trying. It wasn't for the fact he didn't get enough chances. He did. He just couldn't finish them. Ironically, can't stop scoring for his country, though. So, hopefully, Højlund in front of Bruno will be a bit of a combo, one that we need to see. Hit that like button, please, people. Get involved in the comments in the chat and hit that like button. Santa Notch says, not going to read too much into Luxembourg, but at least Bruno is keeping sharp. Yeah. I think that's a pretty fair comment there. Vandeel Kupega, or Kubheka, forgive me, I've just butchered your name there, says Bruno severely underappreciated in general. I like that. I think that's a good way to put it. Underappreciated. I think he is underappreciated. He can have bad games. He can have games where he's not at the races or he doesn't turn up or he lets his emotions get the better of him. That has happened to Bruno Fernandes a few times. But if you look at the amount of good performances he has, you look at how he's done since he arrived at Manchester United, for me, easily our best signing post Alex Ferguson. I don't think it's a debate. I don't. I think there's other players who've done all right. I think there's other players who are here now, who recent signings, who you can say in a few years' time they could kick on and become Manchester United greats. But I think the only one who you can say, yeah, he has been an absolute success since he arrived is Bruno Fernandes. I think with everyone else, there's a little bit of a caveat. Like, Lisandro Martinez, fantastic signing, but he's been here for, a season and a bit, and he was injured back end of last season. I think he's going to be a great player for United, but it's early doors in terms of his United career. Other players like Zlatan, great first season, didn't really happen from second season. Pogba had some good matches, had some good spells, missed a lot of football though, and I'm going to get into Paul Labile Pogba in a minute. Juan Mata, again, some great moments, some decent goals, important goals, but there was times when it just wasn't happening for him in a red shirt, especially towards the end of his career, which he seemed to be towards the end of his career for like last 3 seasons. It was weird. Anyway, that's my thoughts on Bruno Fernandes. Let me know your thoughts too and hit that like button. Let's get 300 likes before we end this video. Now, Jadon Sancho, I think it's safe to say all has not been rosy with this signing. You can see there in the Daily Star, I think it's Jeremy Cross wrote this one, says Jadon Sancho expected to be sold by Man United in January after showdown talks with Ten Hag. Manchester United, go on, you're all right, scroll down, go on, let's get into the meat of the story. Says Sancho faces a losing battle to save his United career. The troubled star has seen his relationship with United boss Erik Ten Hag break down completely. Sancho has held showdown talks with Ten Hag about his United future following a bust-up between the pair. Now, I had this in my news yesterday. We did the news outside Old Trafford, saying now they had crunch talks, showdown talks, whatever you want to call them. It appears from the reports those haven't really gone the way of sorting anything out. I mean, I don't know how much you can look into this, because obviously you've got the report there from Jeremy Cross. That is one thing. You've also got the fact that Sancho's pinned tweet is still his rebuttal of Erik Ten Hag's comments. Although, ironically, his picture on his Twitter is still him and Erik Ten Hag smiling. So that's a bit of a contradiction. But it doesn't feel or look like anything has been resolved. We may find out more at the manager's press conference. I think that'll be Friday. He's definitely going to get asked about it. He's definitely going to address it. That will make it clearer. He may keep his cards close to his chest and just say, look, we've had a conversation. He is available for this weekend. Not really tells anything. He may elaborate and go, look, he said sorry or I've said sorry or whatever. He may give us some more detail, but the more recent reports following those talks seem to indicate that nothing has been resolved enough for Jadon Sancho to have a long-term future at Manchester United, and he has been linked with a move away, as we saw there from that report from Jeremy Cross saying that he could go in January. Let me know what you think. Do you think Jadon Sancho should stay at United? Do you want to see him stay at United? Do you think the manager needs to sort of try and keep him? Do you think Jadon Sancho needs to make an effort? Let me know what you think. Hit that like button as well. Come on, people. Let's get to at least 200 likes. We haven't even got to 100 yet. Come on. Hook, Slice and Sink It says, hi, Jay. Me and my son watch every day. Can you give a shout out to Jayden Bryan, please? No, I will not give a shout out to Jayden Bryan. Of course I will. Big shout out to Jayden Bryan. Thanks for watching. Phil Berry says, Sancho needs to do one, but El Ghazi, the mind boggles. Yeah, should we talk about this? This one came and went, right, like a passing fad. Here it is. It says, exclusive. Manchester United consider shock move for ex-Aston Villa winger Anwar El Ghazi amid uncertainty over Antony and Jadon Sancho, with the Dutchman available on a free transfer having left PSV. This was one of those stories, right? United have had a few of these stories over the years where it's like, oh, we've been linked with someone. Oh, look, we're going, and then before you've even got time to do a tweet, it's gone. It's been poo-pooed or it's been dismissed. So we had this story from Chris Wheeler in the Mail last night saying that United were considering a move for the ex-Aston Villa winger, Anwar El Ghazi. Now, let's just qualify that. For starters, you go, what? No. I think everyone was, my timeline was awash with outrage at the prospects of someone who more or less flopped at Aston Villa and Everton. Excuse me. Coming to Manchester United. However, if we can just sort of consider it, you think, all right, look, he's Dutch. We're linked with every Dutch player that's ever lived. because of Erik Ten Hag. And Erik Ten Hag's MO a lot of the time is to go to the Dutch league or players that he's seen in the Dutch league or players that he knows, whether that's Wout Weghorst, whether it's Tyrell Malacia, whether it's Lisandro Martinez, whether it's Antony, whoever, Eriksson, whoever. Even Mason Mount, I think he knew him from his time at Utrecht or something. He does like to get players in that he knows or he's seen in the Dutch league or he's worked with or whatever. So there's that element. Also, he started off at Ajax as well. I don't know. Did their paths cross? I don't know if they crossed actually at Ajax, but he was in the Dutch league anyway, so he obviously knows him from that. So there's that. He's available. He's a free agent, so you can get him. And we are a little bit short of wingers. Sancho, we don't know what's happening with there. Antony, he's still on a leave of absence, so you're missing him. Plus, there might have been a feeling that Mason Greenwood was going to come back in the squad. That ain't happening now. So maybe he's looking at going, well, I need a winger. He's a winger. He's available. I know him. He can do a job. Yeah. The problem is, he's not at the levels you want, really. I've not seen a lot of him, but from what I have seen and from what I can remember, I don't think he was that good. I don't think he was good enough to come into a Manchester United team that has aspirations of top 4 football and winning trophies. So, a lot of people looking at this going, really? Are we really? Is that what we're doing now? Getting a free transfer for a kid who's just not really cut it in the Premier League? I mean, he was at Villa, wasn't he, for, is it 4 seasons? I want to say 1, 2, 3, 4. He went on loan to Everton for 2 games. I mean, he did all right in one of his seasons in the Premier League. He banged in 10 goals in 28 games. Very good. But then not much after that, to be honest with you. And his career just feels like it's petered out a little bit. I mean, he had a couple of Dutch caps, but they were in 2015. So that tells you all you need to know. This isn't a top-tier player for me. No, I don't think so anyway. So when this rumour came out, this story came out by Chris Wheeler, a lot of people were going, man, come on. Listen, Facundo Palestra is right there. Give him a chance. Yeah, if you want a winger and you're not going to use Jadon Sancho and you don't, obviously, you can't use Antony in a minute, why not give Palestra running the team? He's not exactly done a bad job when he's come in. He's done all right, Palestra. So there was a lot of people questioning this. A lot of people were upset about it. A lot of people were thinking Erik Ten Hag needs to get a grip because we can't just keep getting loads of different Dutch players or players from the Dutch league just because you know them. Some of them have to be good enough for Manchester United. However, we need to park our outrage. Don't fret, because this morning that story has been proven to be untrue. We've had Laurie Whitwell, who ultra reliable Laurie, know him, friend of the channel, has been on the channel loads, does his own work. He said, Man United not interested in Anwar El Ghazi after proposal by agents. Right-wing options affected by Antony's withdrawal and Sancho's situation, but Palestra was kept with a view to featuring, plus Garnacho could play there, Fernandes, Mount too, if necessary. I trust Laurie. I get what's gone on here. El Ghazi's agent has probably gone, look, my client is right here. He's a winger. He's Dutch. Erik Ten Hag likes his Dutch players. He could go to Manchester United. I'm going to get on the phone. I'm going to try and generate a little bit of interest. I'm going to tell a few journalists or whatever, look, you know what? We could be open to a move to Manchester United, or there's been interest from Manchester United, or Manchester United are rumoured to be looking at my client. Whatever. It feels agent-driven, this story, rather than Manchester United-driven or Erik Ten Hag-driven. It doesn't feel like United or the scouting department or anyone has looked at El Ghazi or has given any indication to journalists where you go, actually, from what we're being told, United have been monitoring him. I don't see any of that going on. I don't even think he's on one of our lists. I've never, ever heard us being linked with him before last night. So I know, obviously, things, situations have changed. We weren't linked with Sergio Reguilon. Well, we were actually 2 years ago, but we weren't recently until we got a load of injuries. We weren't linked with Marco Corella, were we? Until we got injuries at left-back. So things can change, but this one felt very agent-driven to me. It just looked at it and you go, right, okay, this looks like a bit of nonsense. Maybe it kind of makes sense, but not really. Laurie spoke about it there. He said, not happening. Also, James Ducker, another journalist who does his own work, he says there, now what I like about this is he's quote tweeted himself. So his original tweet, you can see there from late last night, says, United have been offered Anwar El Ghazi. That makes sense. United have been offered him. He's a free agent. His agent's probably sat there thinking, I need to make some money off this kid. He's just sat home doing now, and I'm not earning. Let's get on a phone. Manchester United, they need a winger. United, do you want El Ghazi? No. Right, sound. That's probably how that conversation went. So James Ducker last night said, United have been offered Anwar El Ghazi, club exploring their options amid uncertainty around Antony and Jadon Sancho, first mentioned by Chris Wheeler. So he's saying the club are exploring their options. He doesn't say they're going to get him. He's just saying the club are looking at our options. Those options could be for Kundo Palestra. Those options could be playing Bruno Fernandes or Mason Mount on the right-hand side of a front three. Those options could be anything. Marcus Rashford has played on the right-hand side of a front three. So it doesn't necessarily mean that United are in for Anwar El Ghazi, and it certainly doesn't look like that. And also, James Ducker, this morning at 25 to 10, has quote tweeted himself, saying United won't be taking up that offer. So it's probably United have probably just said, look, that ain't happening. Sometimes, United will tell you straight away if something's just not happening. Or you can find out from reliable sources close to the club. And they'll go, just forget that. No, he's not even on the list. He's not happening. And that feels like that one. It feels like the agent's driven the story. Journalists have picked up on it, going, okay, look, they've been offered this player. There might be something there. There might be a bit of interest there. He could come in to replace or to sort of be an option whilst Antony's not available and while Sancho is going through a bit of a feud with the manager. However, not happening. Done. I don't think we'll hear anything about this story again. I could be wrong, but I doubt it. Let me know in the comments. Let me know what you thought of that story when it broke. Let me know what you think about the fact it ain't happening, because I'm interested to hear. Because I know that with something like that, the instinct is, oh my God, look at the state of this club. But then when you look in the cold light of day, you go, well, actually, we were never in for him. His agent tried to make that happen, so I don't think it's United's fault for once, this situation. ZXEL says, what about Lingard or Pepe? Yeah. Moody Mank 63 says lol. Ruben C says, any news when Ahmad's back, lads? I don't know, actually. That's a good point, isn't it? He's been injured for a little while, Andy Diallo. He went out on loan to Sunderland last season and did had a very good spell there. I think he scored about 13, 14 goals. So he had a very good spell. There was talk of him maybe going on loan. There was talk of him maybe coming back in and featuring. Then he's picked up this knock. So I don't know what the latest is. We'll try and find out for you. But I think it might be a little while till he's back. I think it might be a couple of months. But I don't know, actually. I don't know. Do you know what? I don't know. So I don't want to speculate. I think it is about time for him to feature, because he's had a good spell in the Championship. I think now he either comes back into United's first team, in and around the first team, I don't mean he starts, or he gets a loan to a Premier League club. I don't think going back to the Championship does him any favours. I think he needs to progress. He's done a very good season in the Championship, helped Sunderland get to the playoffs, scored a lot of goals. Now the next move is get him some Premier League experience, see whether he's good enough for the Premier League. So whether that's he's a fringe player for Manchester United, because we are lacking a few options, or we're sending him out on loan to a different Premier League club. I think a Premier League club would have him. I think there's plenty of Premier League clubs that look at Ahmed Diallo and go, he could do a job for us. Definitely. You look at, say, Luton, for example. I know I'm talking about the sort of relegation favourites, but Tahith Chong's gone there. Now, for me, I'd rather have Ahmed Diallo and Tahith Chong. I know they're slightly different players, but you get my point. I think there's clubs in the Premier League that would have Ahmed Diallo, even if it is from the bench or whatever. Everton, I think, might have him from the bench as a player you can bring on. He's an explosive, exciting player who can get you goals. Yeah, I think he could have a chance. Glenn F says, Jay, I want you to tell me whether Joe is a United fan or not. Apart from that, 100% loads of emojis, glazes out. Joe Smith. Yeah, he's a diehard United fan. You never see why Joe Smith ended up on this channel. Joe Smith ended up on this channel because he did a fantastic fan cam when he was full of red wine after the derby at Old Trafford, where he spoke a lot of sense, impressed us all, and then ended up getting a bit of a gig through that, and then now he's a part owner of the channel. So, dreams can come true when you've had a load of red wine and you get in front of a camera chatting to Adam McCullough. So, yeah, he's a massive United fan, Glenn. Don't worry about that. Ant L says, Jay confirmed El Ghazi's not on. Yeah, it's not. I've just been talking about that. Hellboy says, I really don't understand this club anymore. I'm not going to give the club grief for the El Ghazi thing. I don't think that's anything to do with the club. I think that's to do with just his agent trying to make something happen for his client, and it ain't happening. So it's one of those where you just file under. Well, that was like fleeting money. That was like the David Brooks rumours. Do you remember them ones? Where it was like, we've been linked with David Brooks, and everyone's like, what? David Brooks from Bournemouth? What are you doing going for him? And then that was in the morning. In the afternoon, it was gone. Yeah, sometimes you get these little fleeting transfer rumours, don't you? It's just one of those things. Should we talk about, it's like Liz Truss's premiership, if we can get all political. Right, should we talk about Paul Pogba? People go, why talk about Paul Pogba? He's not a United player anymore, but he's still a big topic for United fans. Let's not pretend he isn't. Let's not pretend that a lot of people you know or follow haven't been speaking about Paul Pogba. And I just think it's all a bit sad. So, see here from ESPN FC, Paul Pogba could face a 4-year ban from football after his failed drug test. So he's been suspended. He's having an investigation, I think. There was talk of him, I think, is it testosterone? He was alleged to have tested positive for during some games for Juventus. So there's going to be investigation. There you go. It says here, Juventus, Paul Pogba, positive for testosterone, risks 4-year ban. The test was carried out after Juventus' game at Udinese on August 20th. Pogba did not play in the Serie A match, but was on Juve's bench. So I think he's been suspended or he's under investigation. Yes, provisional suspension of the athlete Paul Labille Pogba. It's all very sad, isn't it, with Paul Pogba, what's happened with him? Because there was a time with Pogba where, especially when he came back to United, and I had such high hopes. I really did. He came from Juve, he just won a load of titles there. I think he played in the Champions League final as well. It was. I think he did, didn't he? It was one of those where you were like, you know what? There was all this narrative around Paul Pogba being the sort of the prodigal son returning and all this sort of stuff and how wonderful it was going to be, and it was a big price tag on him. I was very excited about it myself. I'd seen him in the academy team. I thought he was a great player and I looked forward to it. And whilst he had a lot of good moments, it just never really happened for him, did it, in a Manchester United shirt? Like, there were some good games. There was the 2017 Europa League final. He played very well there. There was the Manchester derby, of course, when he got those 2 goals to stop City or postpone City winning the title, stop them winning it in front of us, which would have been horrible. So there were those times where there's moments. I remember the semi-final against Spurs in the FA Cup, but there's other games like the FA Cup final, the second Europa League final. It just didn't happen for him. And plus his injuries. I think the main problem he had with Paul Pogba at United was he missed a lot of games through injury, and he's missed a lot of games at Juve through injury. I was talking about this last night. He's missed. Like, if you look at his injury record over the last 4 or 5 years, he's missed so many games. Like, he's barely played because of injuries. He's missed 37 days, 30 days, 26 days, 79 days, 143 days, 49 days. That's all at Juve. He's not even been there that long. He's been there a year and a bit. And then you go further back, United, 35 days, 87 days, 42 days, 17 days. These are all his injuries. 18 days, 165 days, 84 days. He's just missed so many games. And that did for him, didn't it? I just feel like Paul Pogba, it's weird because he's a World Cup winner. He's someone who's won, I think, 4 Scudettos. He's won the Europa League. But there's an element of what might have been with Paul Pogba. And now you've got this doping thing. There was the recent story, wasn't there, about the kidnapping attempt and his brother being involved in it, which I thought was horrendous, by the way. I feel for him there. It's never nice to sort of have that as your family involved in that. So, yeah, it just feels like Pogba's sort of career post sort of 2018, especially since he won that World Cup. There's been a few moments. I think they won the Nations League with France, but there's not been much, has there, to shout about. It's for me, it's a shame. You may get involved in the comments. You may disagree, but I just think like it's just one of those where you just sort of go almost what might have been, which seems a strange thing to say about a World Cup winner. The Glazers, they're still here. Yeah, we want rid of them. We've had enough. Now, the 1958, who are a group that we've spoke to a few times. We've had Steve from the 1958 on the channel. Always good to chat to him and to hear what they're up to. They're sort of fighting a good fight to try and rally people to get protests going, to keep the message there that we want rid of the Glazers and that everyone can do their part, everyone can get involved. Now, you can see here, they've launched this Claim Back United website. So it says here, register to stand side by side with us and fellow fans. Our unity is our strength, and we need that voice in its thousands. So they're talking about everyone can get involved. There's a link. I'll put the link in the chat there. You can get involved as well, where they're asking people to join them, help organise protests, let people know. If you can see there, if you sign up, this is what it gives you. It says you can submit protest ideas, offers to help, strategies will be published for feedback. Everyone will be treated equally. It's free. and a vehicle towards better communication and planning. I think the 58 have evolved, you know. I do. I'll be honest with you. When they first came on the scene, there were certain things they were saying and they were doing, especially the sort of their attitude towards fan channels, which I didn't agree with. I agreed with a lot of the anti-Glazer sentiment, of course, but there was some things I looked at and I was like, I don't think the messaging's great, and I think you sort of a little bit all over the place, if I'm being honest, where in terms of where you sort of aiming your shots at certain groups and certain fan channels, and I was like, obviously from fan channel, I'm not going to agree with that, but the heart was in the right place in terms of getting rid of the Glazers. And I think what you've seen, and I think the 58 people I spoke to, 58 will be the first time in it, they have evolved, they have grown, and they've learned, and they've sort of been a lot more clearer and sort of direct about what they're trying to do. And they're working with fan channels as well. They've been on our channel, they've been on other channels as well to spread that message. And I think there's a real strong message of unity within the sort of 58 and the fan base as well. Let's work together to get rid of the Glazers. And I can say this because I've spoken to them personally. This isn't about a certain bid being successful. There was this narrative going on that they wanted Qatar to be successful or whatever. They've always sort of been at pains to say that. They want the Glazers gone. The Glazer ownership for Manchester United has been a disaster for this club, regardless of what some numpties in the press and the media might say. It has. And the message from the 58 is, let's work together to get the message out there. The Glazers need to go, hopefully sooner rather than later. If we do hear anything on that front as well, because it has gone a little bit cool, and in terms of what is happening with the takeover and the ownership, then we'll let you know. And by all means, if you know anything, do get involved. Chris B says, be careful, you might get put into the high-risk group. Yeah, there was talk of the TRA, and I stand in the TRA at Old Trafford, the Red Army, of them being a risk group, and the club have pushed back saying that's not the case. GMP were looking at that but didn't do it. That's all getting a little bit messy. That needs resolving, because I think the TRA have done a very good job in improving the atmosphere at Old Trafford. So yeah, there's a lot going on at United at the minute, isn't there? Not much of it feels positive, but you know what? When Bruno dinks that little ball to Rasmus Højlund, who scores the winner against Brighton, everything will be rosy again. We're going to be back later on. We're going to have Uncensored with Adam McCullough. He's coming into the studio, so me and him are going to be doing Uncensored. We're going to have a little look at Facundo Palestri as well, because there's a lot of attention on him now, isn't there? A lot of pressure on some of these youngsters, you know. Højlund, Palestri, even Garnacho. We're looking at some of these younger players and going, you guys have got to help get us out of this mess. Is that fair? Well, we're going to get your opinion on that. We'll be talking about that in Uncensored. Also, as well, later on in the week, we'll have the preview for the Brighton game that I just mentioned. We'll have the watch-along. We'll have all the reaction to it after the games happen as well. Not to mention, we'll also have the brew this week too. We'll have an interview with a journalist coming up as well. I think that's going to be tomorrow. There's loads going on, so make sure you are hitting like, share, and subscribe. You don't want to miss out on any of that good stuff. Thanks to everyone who got involved in the chat. Adam Kenny says, how is the weather? It's wet. It's raining in Manchester, but hopefully the sun will be shining this weekend when Manchester United get all 3 points against Brighton. I've been Jay Motty. This has been The Paper Talk. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.